Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a really fascinating intersection of ancient tradition and modern tech. I want you to picture centuries of deeply rooted scholarly tradition. You know, the quiet rustle of pages, the intense focus in a traditional learning circle. Okay, now imagine a single lecture from that world reaching 2 million young Muslims across 5 continents in just a matter of hours. That is exactly what we're unpacking today. We're looking at the digital echoes of Islamic scholarship. Specifically, we'll see how platforms like YouTube and social media have totally rewritten the rules for how traditional knowledge is consumed. It's not just about the physical classroom anymore. We're literally seeing 14th century classical texts being live-streamed, debated, and dissected in real time by a massive global audience. The scale here is absolutely staggering, and honestly, it brings up some incredible questions about preservation, authority, and access in the modern age.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really grasp what we're looking at, we have to move way beyond just the idea of recording a talk and throwing it on the web. What does it actually mean for scholarship to echo digitally? Well, the main argument from our source material is that the medium itself fundamentally changes how we interact with the message. We're looking at a radical shift here. We're going from a localized, highly controlled learning environment into a completely decentralized, kind of chaotic ecosystem. Think about it. When a really complex legal ruling or a nuanced theological concept hits the internet, it suddenly collides with algorithms, comment sections, and viral sharing mechanics. So the core thesis isn't just about transmission. It's about how traditional scholarly authority navigates a space where literally everyone has a voice. It's about how profound spiritual gravity holds up when it's sandwiched right next to entertainment and your daily newsfeed.
To start making sense of this whole phenomenon, let's look at this specific term, digital echoes. Our source text uses this framing to highlight something really crucial. These aren't just static digital archives collecting dust on a server somewhere. Not at all. When we look at the data, researchers actually point out a massive spike in classical commentaries being clipped, shared, and remixed on platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels. We're talking about the voices of traditional scholars from seminaries in Cairo or Turim or Deoband finding this wild new life as they bounce across the web. The word echo perfectly captures this continuous, active reverberation. A scholar might teach 50 students in a physical room, right? But the echo travels through thousands of shares, WhatsApp forwards, and algorithmic suggestions. It reaches audiences that, frankly, never would have walked through the doors of that original physical space.
Let's ground this with a real-world example from the sources. Imagine a classic text on ethics being taught in a remote desert madrasa. Historically, for hundreds of years, that knowledge stayed strictly within those 4 walls. But today, that exact same teaching is live-streamed to a university student commuting on the tube in London and simultaneously to a software engineer in Jakarta. This is the literal online manifestation and reverberation of traditional teachings. The digital landscape acts as the new vessel. But, and here's where it gets really interesting, the source material points out a fascinating friction. For an echo to exist, the original voice obviously has to be authentic. But as that voice travels further and further from its source, it kind of gets fragmented. It gets shared in snippets. Sometimes it's completely divorced from its original context. And that raises some huge, vital questions about exactly how much of the original meaning actually survives this digital journey.
Now let's look at the absolute anchor of this entire concept, Islamic scholarship. To really appreciate the magnitude of this shift, we need to understand exactly what is being digitized here. Our sources emphasize that traditional Islamic scholarship is not casual learning. It is an incredibly rigorous, heavy system of knowledge. We are talking about decades, literally decades, of mastering classical Arabic syntax, morphology, logic, and jurisprudence. It's entirely built on the Ijaza system, which is this unbroken, verifiable chain of teacher-to-student transmission stretching back well over a millennium. It requires intense memorization, deep character development, and localized physical presence at the feet of a scholar. So this immense, structured, and deeply rooted foundation is exactly what is currently being pushed into the fast-paced, high-volume pipeline of the modern internet. And this brilliantly illustrates the tension between these two completely different environments. On one side, you have traditional scholarship, the origin. This relies heavily on physical spaces, localized communities, and direct face-to-face transmission. It's a setting where adab, or proper etiquette and context, can be really closely monitored and maintained. On the flip side, you have the digital echoes, the reverberation. This space is totally boundless, it's borderless, and it is constantly expanding. The traditional origin is rooted, it's slow, and it demands immense patience. But the digital reverberation, it's broad, it's instantly accessible, and it is heavily tailored to super short attention spans. The sources highlight a really profound point here. While the digital echo owes its entire existence to the traditional origin, it operates by completely different rules. So the big challenge becomes, how do you maintain the integrity and depth of the origin while harnessing the absolute incredible reach of the reverberation? Let's map this out so we can actually visualize how we arrived at this current landscape. We can track this as a pretty clear timeline of progression. We start, of course, at the origin, that deep well of face-to-face Islamic scholarship we just talked about. But the transition phase, that didn't just happen overnight. The sources actually track this back to the explosion of cassette tapes in the 1970s and 80s. That was the first time these lectures could cross borders on a massive scale. From there, it moved into satellite television in the 90s, and then absolutely exploded with early internet forums and YouTube. And that brings us right to our current state. We have moved from physical gatherings to analog recordings right into an era of high-speed broadband, algorithmic curation, and short-form video. The core knowledge hasn't changed, but the speed, the volume, and the packaging of its delivery have evolved in ways that are just mind-blowing.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the practical reality described in our source text, the Islamic Lecture Online. This right here is the ultimate synthesis of centuries of tradition and modern convenience. Today, consuming these lectures is just seamlessly woven into the fabric of everyday life. The sources point out that your morning commute, a gym session, or just doing daily chores around the house, these have literally become modern classrooms. You can pop on your headphones and listen to a deep dive breakdown of 11th century philosophy while riding the subway to work. The physical barriers to entry have been completely demolished. You no longer need to buy a plane ticket across the world or enroll in a seminary to access high-level discourse. It's perfectly packaged, highly searchable, and available totally on demand, which turns passive daily routines into these really active, profound learning moments.
Now, what's really fascinating about this phenomenon is how it breaks down into 3 distinct active elements. An Islamic lecture online must first be derived from scholarship, meaning it still absolutely relies on the academic and spiritual authority of the origin if it wants to be taken seriously by the audience. Second, it is echoed digitally. It's totally adapted for the screen. Think visual aids, timestamps, professional audio, the whole shebang. But third, the fact that it is delivered online introduces entirely new mechanics. This online environment allows for immediate pausing, rewinding, and most crucially, out-of-context clipping. The text warns us about a real double-edged sword here. A highly complex 2-hour lesson on jurisprudence can be easily sliced up into a highly controversial 15-second viral soundbite. The delivery mechanism itself fundamentally alters how the knowledge can be manipulated and perceived by the public. So the crucial point here is understanding the massive cultural collision that's happening right in front of us. We have a word like lecture, right? A word that inherently implies structure, a speaker of recognized authority, and a quiet, attentive audience. And then we have the online space, a totally democratized, notoriously noisy environment, famous for flattened hierarchies and, let's be honest, chaotic comment sections. The sources point out that when these two forces collide, you get friction. You have traditional scholars stepping into an arena where literally any anonymous user can challenge a profound theological point right there in the comments. It completely disrupts the traditional dynamic of authority. Yet, despite all this friction and the obvious risk of misinterpretation, the structured tradition of the Islamic lecture has actually thrived. It's finding unparalleled reach and proving the incredible adaptability of classical scholarship in our democratized digital age. Which brings us to a final, really vital question to close out our explainer today. How will the Islamic Lecture Online continue to shape the future echoes of scholarship? We've seen the wild journey from cassette tapes all the way to TikTok clips. But as tech rapidly accelerates into artificial intelligence, algorithmic curation, and believe it or not, automated fatwa generators, how will that original, rigorous scholarly voice adapt? Will the sheer, deafening volume of digital noise eventually distort the echo, or will these new technologies actually provide even more precise ways to preserve and share classical knowledge? The landscape is shifting incredibly fast, and it guarantees that the traditional learning circles of the past are going to face unprecedented challenges, but also wild new opportunities in the digital future. Thank you so much for joining me, and I really hope this leaves you as fascinated by the modern evolution of knowledge as I am.